Kaufman. I'm proud to be the president of our Youth Innovation Table. With me on the moderating side today, my right hand, our Vice President Miriam, and our Director in California, Grace. We have two amazing panelists with us, one from Harvard and the other from Yale. Both are just incredible leaders and incredible people, one of which is Jack Silvers and the other is Sari Kaufman. Jack, I'm going to give you an opportunity first to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about what you've been working on, and welcome yourself to the group.
Yeah, thanks, Sinan, for having me. Really happy to be here today. I'm Jack. I'm a first-year student at Harvard. I'm originally from Scarsdale, New York, and I graduated from Scarsdale High School in June 2020. So I took a year off due to COVID-19, but really happy to be on campus here in Cambridge. I'm a potential political science concentrator, really interested in politics, thinking about possible joint concentration with either economics or neuroscience. So those are the things I've become involved with in campus so far. And yeah, happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Jack. Appreciate you coming on the call today. And Sari, you're up next.
Yeah, well, thank you again for having us. I'm excited for this conversation. To give a little background, I'm a sophomore at Yale, but I think Jack and I are then the same ages. I didn't take a gap year last year, so definitely an interesting experience being on campus during COVID. But I went to Stoneman Douglas High School, and I have now known Sinan for, I don't know, like 4 years since middle school. So I'm excited to be here.
I think that's right. It's been 4 years, and it's been, Sari, you've always been awesome, an incredible leader in your community also, and as an activist. And we're excited to talk about those experiences as well. I'm going to hand it over to Miriam for the first question.
Yeah, thank you, Sinan. So given that I think all three of us are seniors in high school, we're also going through like the college application process. And I know you guys are, I believe, Jack, you said you're a freshman, and Sari, you're a sophomore. I was wondering if you guys could share a little bit more about your career goals and kind of where you want to go after you graduate from university.
Yeah, I can take that one first. So similar to Jack, I am, I think, majoring in political science. And, you know, since I went to Stoneman Douglas after the shooting, I got really involved in activism and gun violence prevention. And I was also very involved in my debate team. So that showed me the importance of policy and also just my liking for policy research. So as of now, you know, it's kind of hard knowing what I want to do after college, but right now I'm thinking going into politics, but more specifically focused on doing research policy and hopefully writing policy and, you know, working on the Hill or in the administration, something like that. So that's what I see myself now. But honestly, once you get to college, it changes so much what you want to do.
Yeah, I think I can echo a lot of Sari's experience. I was also involved in speech debate in high school, so I became pretty interested in politics, which is kind of shaping my direction here at Harvard so far. But I'm very undecided as to what I think political science could lead to. Similar to Sari, I'm interested in research, policy think tank as a possible path, with potential interest in maybe serving in government. In a civil servant or elected office role. But I'm really trying to keep my options open here on campus. I'm also working for a student-run company, Harvard Student Agencies. So I'm trying to dip my toes into a few different buckets.
That's really amazing. Thank you for that question, Miriam, and a really insightful question. And I think it definitely suits both of what your passions are and what your goals are for the future, which is really exciting. Grace, the next question is yours to ask.
Yes, hi guys. So obviously you guys go to very prestigious, well-known schools. Were these goals that you were always working towards in high school? And if so, how? Like, what were your extracurriculars, classes, that kind of stuff that you were doing in high school?
Jack, you want to go first on this one?
Yeah, sure. I can start out on this one. I think that for me, the goal was never necessarily Harvard or any one school specifically. I knew that I wanted to go to a liberal arts school that also had research, medium sized, and I'm from the East Coast. So naturally, I was kind of touring a lot of Ivy League schools, schools in the Boston, New York area. And as high school kind of progressed, I think as I talked to more people who had been at Harvard, and also Yale was another one of my top choices, what stuck out to me was just the abundance of opportunities and the abundance of possible career paths that they can set you up really well for. So that's my answer when it comes to kind of direction for picking colleges. When it comes to extracurriculars, I was involved in speech and debate. I did extemporaneous speaking until I met Sinan in schools around the country. So I was pretty involved in that. I also did a couple science activities related to neuroscience research, and I played piano. So I was involved in a couple of music clubs at my school. So I was in a few different activities, but kind of politics was always towards the center for me.
Yeah. And for me also pretty similar, not surprised, but I never really thought that I would be applying to Yale until really my junior year. So throughout high school, I really pushed myself to take the most APs and, to be top in my class and to do all the extracurriculars, because I knew I wanted to go to liberal arts school, and a school, not necessarily an Ivy League school, but just, a school that can give me the resources and the research that I want to be able to accomplish. So that was kind of my mindset. And then junior year, I actually did a program at Yale during the summer. It's called Yale Young Global Scholars. And that really put my eye on Yale. And then I decided to do early action the following year. So that was kind of like my path to deciding where I wanted to go. And similar with extracurriculars, I was very involved in debate. I did DECA. That's how I met Sinan. And also, I started a civic education nonprofit my junior year of high school, which was one of my main activities. And I think that what was important, like throughout the whole process, was just really keeping my mind open. I think it's like you don't really want to set yourself on only one school, because there could be a lot of disappointment in that way. And then the other question, yeah, the other question relating to what was like the third question that you asked within that?
Oh
Did I
gosh,
get all
I think you got it all. I basically just
Okay,
asked about
great.
like extracurriculars and stuff like that.
Okay. Oh, I think you asked maybe about APs. I guess I would say, so my junior year, I took like 6 APs. Sadly, my school didn't have any requirement on how many APs you can take. And I think, that was pretty unfortunate, because you just had to take as many as you could to stand out. So I think I did like 6 junior, 6 senior, and then I don't know how many freshmen and sophomore.
So I've seen both of you along your journey do so many incredible things. I know that both of you have always taken the top classes and then been leaders. Sari, you mentioned in the civic organizations, and DECA, Jack through speech and debate, and all of the things that you do. So talk to us a little bit about, for everybody watching, time management and the strategies that you've implemented in your life and in your journey that have helped you to do all the amazing things that you've been able to do, but also still preserve a little bit of sanity for yourself. And so, Sari, you can go first on that one.
Yeah, well, I think I'm still trying to nail down my time management skills. It's very different in college compared to high school. My mom would always joke and say that it's fine, like being a busy person, then you get more things done. Honestly, when I don't have things to do, I procrastinate way more. So in high school, I just like plan out my days every day. And, if I have a meeting and then I have like an hour in between, then I make sure I get that one assignment done or whatever that specific task is. So I would probably say like the most important thing for time management to me is being able to just set aside time to do certain things, and then like accomplishing whatever that task is within that certain amount of time. In college, it gets a little different because there's way more things to balance. But I think in high school, putting school and your extracurriculars almost at the same level, I think is important, because colleges aren't just looking to making sure you get straight A's. They're making sure that you have a lot of different aspects to you and your personality. Like Jack, he played piano. I was on the lacrosse team. So it's not only about doing academic things. So that's kind of how I would answer for time management.
Yeah, just to agree with Sari, first of all, that it's very different high school to college. And I'm definitely still figuring out in my first semester how to balance time. But one method that I feel like I picked up in college that would have been very helpful in high school is just using calendars. Google Calendar is very commonly used. I'm sure at Yale too. Harvard students really run by it. And it can really help to just kind of set your agenda for a day or a week. I think I really would have benefited from that in high school. But when I was in high school, something that I would do that was pretty helpful for me was just to try to budget my time in 1 hour intervals and try to minimize distractions, especially just when doing schoolwork or work for clubs. I would set a 1 hour timer on my phone, put my phone in the kitchen or somewhere downstairs, and just try to stay dedicated for that 1 hour and kind of eliminate the noise. So that worked decently well for me. I think everyone kind of has to figure out their best time management strategies, but yeah, it's about, I think, just finding dedicated pockets of time.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for your insight on that one. Miriam, you're up next.
Yes. Okay, so I have another question, and it's kind of broad, but I wanted to ask you guys, just looking at the college application process as a whole, what would your biggest piece of advice be to people who are currently applying? Or it doesn't have to be biggest piece of advice. What advice do you have in general?
I think what I would say probably in general is specifically, I guess, well, not in general, so specifically writing the essay portion. I think some students have a mindset of, oh, I need to speak in this certain language, or, using this vocabulary, or this is exactly what the college wants me to say, or only hone in on this one activity that was really impressive that I did. And I think working through, even though I did early action, I think I applied to like 15 different schools before. So having to write a lot of different essays, I realized that answering the questions, whatever like I thought of first, and like whatever was like my most passionate answer, was really when I like did, I thought in my mind, did the best essay. So one of my friends told me that before I started the application process, which was just write about what you're passionate about. And that really helped me throughout the whole thing. Because I think some of those questions are really daunting, and like, how are you supposed to find an answer? But whatever you think of first, I would go with. And then in general, I think obviously the college process sometimes sucks. And like if you see friends getting into different schools and you're not getting into them, or some people find out earlier than others, I think just taking a step back, and even though it's like much easier said than done, by May 1st, you're going to know where you're going to go. And really, once you get to college, you'll see that like even my friends all at different places, they're all having their time of their lives at their own college, and you find your friends, you find your place. So it sounds really daunting in the beginning, but I'm sure you'll end up where you're supposed to be. And I kept hearing that and I was like, that's BS, but I do think it is true. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, I think I'll just start with the essay aspect too, just following up on that. My biggest recommendation on the essays would just be to genuinely have fun. And I think it's a good indicator that if you're not having fun, or you don't look back on your essay or your supplements and feel pretty proud and almost like entertained, I guess, by what you've written, it's probably not genuine, or it's not as genuine as it could be. And that varies a lot, obviously, by the prompt that you're looking at. Like there are some supplements that are just naturally fun, like the U Chicago application, or even some of the Yale essays I thought were pretty fun to write. But even with the Common App, I think that if it's not an essay that you can enjoy writing and bring out a part of you that you feel really proud or like excited about, then you should try to rewrite as many times as you can. And it definitely took me a while to get to that. I don't know if I ever really achieved that final state. And then kind of taking a step back, more broadly, like similar to what Sari said, it's so hard to know what it'll be like when you actually get to school. So having perspective and just trying to talk to as many people at the schools you're applying to, I think is the best thing to do. Because the tours and the info sessions truly can only give you so much. It's just so much different when you actually get there and you are a student on campus, which is a great thing, but it also just means that you should contain your expectations about getting in or not getting into any one school, because there's truly so many different experiences that you can have on different campuses.
That's a great tip and great strategies from two people who've done it and have done it successfully. And it's refreshing to hear from two people who've been through the process, and with your perspectives on the process as well. Grace, the next question is yours.
Yeah. What would you guys say your most like valuable lesson that you've learned in specifically being in college? Like what's one thing that you learned that you never kind of grasped in high school, I guess?
I can kind
Jack,
of
do you want to?
start on this one if you want. I haven't been in school that long, so I'll throw in a disclaimer. But a big lesson that I feel like I've learned so far is how limited your perspective is based on where you lived. And this is different for everyone. But especially at campuses that are really diverse, that bring a lot of international students, the differences in life experience is just incredible. Like there are some people that have very similar backgrounds, very experiences to me here. But I'd say that the vast majority of new people that I've met here bring totally different things to the table, both in what they did in high school, where they grew up, how they grew up, and the things that they want to do in the future. So that's been really refreshing. And it's also something that made me realize that I should have tried to branch out a little bit more in high school to kind of go beyond my local area and meet people from other states or countries, if possible. I think that's just a really enriching experience.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And it was definitely eye-opening coming to campus and meeting people from all over the world and from many different backgrounds. I think similar to that is it's important to see like other people's life experiences and what other people went through before coming to college. And, I think some people have a limited view of like what a childhood looks like. And this is really similar to Jack, but just seeing like all the challenges that students have overcome specifically at Yale, and I'm sure similar to other colleges in order to get here inspires me. And also, when I think of back to high school, like it was so hard doing all the academics and everything, but then seeing that students from all over the world also like went through the college process, also had to work really hard in high school, and go through, different things in their life. It just gives you, it's really similar to Jack. And I think it's kind of funny that we came to that same conclusion. But I think that's what's also really special about going to school like Yale or Harvard or, any school that brings in international students, even if it's like a small liberal arts school. I just think it helps you also in classes. I don't know. I think my Siri just went off. It helps you also in classes to just understand when you're looking at an issue, to not only see it from your background, but also how do other people approach it.
Along the same theme of the schools that you attend, and of course, both of them prestigious schools, what was it that drew you to your school? So Jack, for you, Harvard, and Sari, for you, Yale. And what would you say that others should look for in their dream school or the school that they hope to attend? Jack, if you want to go first on this one.
Yeah, sure. I think it's hard to pin down, one major factor that influenced my decision or that I would recommend people look to. For me, it was kind of just a confluence of things. I've been to Harvard's campus a few times for the Harvard speech debate tournament and really loved it. And also loved the surrounding area. Like from my perspective, I really wanted to be near a major city like Boston, but also have more of a like college town, minor city feel in Cambridge. So that was a big draw for me. But I think at the end of the day, when I was choosing between Harvard and a lot of other amazing schools, I just thought that Harvard had great opportunities in the field that I was interested in. So proximity to graduate schools and the Institute of Politics at Harvard was definitely important to me. But also the flexibility that I knew I could change to any other concentration and I could still have great options when it comes to faculty and research. So I would say looking through like college websites and talking to faculty members is really helpful. And then obviously talking to the students that were there was influential for me, seeing if they're happy, but also if you just feel like you relate to them, you have kind of a similar personality, or you could see yourself kind of vibing with them on campus.
Yeah, similar to that, I think looking back and me like as a high schooler looking at college and what I wanted, it's obviously it's kind of hard to tell, but now being a college student and seeing like what my everyday looks like and consists of, I think it's important to have that perspective when picking. So obviously classes, like really looking at what classes would interest you, if even if you're looking at like three different majors and you're not sure, but just looking at what classes are offered, how many students are in the class, how, are there mainly lectures, what requirements you have to do, because classes consist most of your day. And then also I think a lot of times when you're looking at schools you don't sometimes put in the social factor, but once you get here, it's really important. So like Jack said, meeting other students, asking them, well, how do people balance the work time, but then also like how do they save room for the important part of meeting people and going out and having fun. And I think when I was a high school student, I really just looked at, you know, what type of school is it and like what specific opportunities do they offer, which I think that's very important. But I also think like, what is your everyday going to look like? And are you going to enjoy it? And are you going to be having fun, but also, getting those great opportunities? So that would be my advice when you're looking at and choosing which school you'd want to go to.
Those are some great factors to consider. Thank you to you both for joining and talking about all these different parts and components, especially for high schoolers like us that are going through the process. To hear from you is very refreshing and reassuring. But before we go off, I want to give both of you an opportunity to give some closing remarks and some last pieces and tidbits of advice that you may feel that you might have not been able to address, or anything that you want to reaffirm to everyone who's watching. So Sari, if you want to go first on this one.
Sure. Yeah. I think, as you enter the college process, just try to have fun with it. Like the questions are really fun. And when Jack was talking, I was thinking like here, I remember first year we would discuss like, oh, what did you put down for this question? Like, and people were saying like really funny things. So just be yourself when you're answering the questions, because that's really what the admissions officers are looking for. And then also, even though it's really stressful and you think it determines your whole life, like it doesn't. Wherever you go, I'm sure you're gonna have a good time. And also just to add to that, don't only look at the academics. I think also putting in the social factor and talking to the students. I'm happy if anyone's looking at Yale or deciding between Yale and another school, just to like, I would give you the honest fact of how Yale is and how the work balance is and all of that. So I really think trying to speak to students at the school you're applying to, and then also just trying to have fun throughout this process.
Yeah, I'd just say that, to you all who are applying now and to high school students that may be younger, it's been a really wild past 2 years. And you've definitely borne the brunt of it, having to go through a lot of online school and having a very different college admissions process than me and Sari did before COVID. So I would just say, don't be afraid to like channel the lessons that you've learned from that into your application. I'm sure lots of people will talk about the resilience that was needed in different facets of the pandemic. But I really think that everyone learned a little bit more about themselves during isolation or quarantine than we would have otherwise. And that's honestly a really helpful thing for the college process, because it's a lot about introspection and kind of revealing your true personality to someone who doesn't know you. And since what Sari said, it all genuinely does work out in the end. And I know we might be kind of biased going through the early action process and not having to go through COVID. But I have friends that had much longer processes, and they're all genuinely happy wherever they ended up. So I'm happy to talk to anyone who's considering Harvard or other schools. And yeah, wish you all the best of luck.
Thank you, Sari and Jack, for coming on. It was really important for me to ask you and for you to come on, because I know that your perspectives are so important for so many to hear. And I can only hope that you continue to share your voice to platforms just like this, because I can tell you that students like myself, like Grace, like Miriam, and others will always greatly benefit from it. And I always appreciate your friendship and appreciate you coming on the program, and keep doing all the great things that you're doing, and keep us updated on all the great work that you're doing. And thank you again for coming on.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.